Okay, so the title of the talk is Beyond Copy and Paste. We all know who that is. Students have been using copy and paste a long time. Go to Google, find something, copy it, paste it into their assignment, paste it into their test response. We know that. This presentation today will try to help you to design your courses and design the assessments so that you get beyond that copy and paste. And it's not so much just trying to catch them cheating, but to build in from the front how to strategically use your assignments and AI in a way that helps them and helps you. So I put in here attribution of achieving the dream summit that I got a lot of these concepts from, but I have to say that it was covered somewhat in the summer symposium. So I see some people that attended the summer symposium, and this was talked a little bit about in the summer as well. So today we'll be talking about AI in education, the TILT method, authentic learning, scaffolded and visible assignments, and practical applications. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. Yeah, I was telling Morgan that I haven't lectured all summer, so I do not have my lecture voice right now, so I'll try my best. So the learning outcomes today in our time together, we want to describe the basic principles of TILT, of authentic learning, scaffolding, and their relevance to AI. Examine practical ideas for integrating AI into coursework while maintaining academic integrity. Explore examples of transparent AI supported assignments that encourage students to use AI as a support tool. Thank you. And to explain how TILT and authentic learning help relate class assignments to real-world applications. So that's something that Dr. Baker talked about is that workforce development aspect of it and tying what you do to how it applies in their real life. And I think many of you may already be using a version of these practices, even if you don't realize it. I know I was doing kind of some of it, but this helped me to put it all together. I had that light bulb moment, and it was very exciting to me when I realized I can actually use this and it will actually help me and it will help my students. So I hope that you get the same revelation today. I hope that you can find something useful out of this. Another thing is that it doesn't always have to use AI. What we're going to be talking about with authentic learning and the TILT approach and scaffolded assignments, you don't always have to put AI into it. It can be part of it, but you can also work if you have assignments that you do not want to incorporate AI with. Okay, just for fun to get started, a little icebreaker. Let's do a trend check and see how trendy and cool you guys are. So, let's see. You got FOMO, JOMO, ROMO, and YOLO.
That's the first one. That's fear of missing out.
Yay! I give him a candy bar. You are right. You are right.
I mean,
you are totally right.
I mean, you only live once.
You only live once, Patrick.
Tony Romo.
You know, that's true. But
music on Mondays only.
You should get something for that.
Are you? But you are Heather.
Like it. You know what? You're on the right track. We had a submission here, regret of missing out. That's kind of like it, but no, it's relief of missing out. Yes. So how many people can relate to that? You know, sometimes you're like glad that you don't have to be there, that you can stay home. All right. So of these four, which are the most trending? And you can have more than one answer. What do you think is trending right now of those four? Romo, JOMO, and YOLO. Yeah. So all three of those. You know, the thought of you only live once, so do what you want to do, you know, and have those experiences and enjoy life. You know, you only live once. And then you have the joy of missing out and the relief of missing out because you're just tired of having to go everywhere and having fear of missing out of everything. All right, back to the subject here. We're going to be talking about tilt. And how many people have been to Camden Park and rode their tilt-a-whirl ride? Yes. Oh, okay. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing is that it is still there and it is backed by Swan Lake and the log flume. And you have to be 48 inches tall to ride it.
Or you have to go with an adult.
Or
Or
an adult.
Or they suck your dad into riding with you type of thing. That's how that works out, yeah.
So dad gets to ride. Okay. And what does it do? Kind of spins you around, tilts you up and down. So it makes your head spin a little bit. So today we hope that we'll be talking about new ideas, but we will not hopefully make your head spin with our talk today. So when we're talking about tilt, we're talking about transparency in learning and teaching. And with that, it was developed. I wish I would have known this a lot sooner than I did. I've been here 12 years. I wish I would have known this earlier. But anyway, it's been around since 1999. Dr. Marianne Winkelmes, Harvard University, and it is evidence-based, and it is designed to improve student success and equity by making the purpose, the tasks, and the evaluation criteria explicitly clear. So we're going to tell you how to do this. It is effective across disciplines and teaching modalities. So whether it's hybrid, in class, web, so whatever modality it works, and that transparent methods are effective at various disciplines, different modalities. So the problem is not all AI. I think some of it is AI, but it's not all AI. But students are skipping the learning. We're seeing that. So it's not so much us trying to constantly catch them cheating and using it in ways we don't want, but we don't want them to use AI to substitute for thinking, analyzing, creating, revising, reflecting, doing what they need to do, building skills. Students increasingly are asking AI to do these things for them. So I see a lot of disciplines here that you represent. We're seeing students ask AI to write, analyze, summarize, narrate, calculate, generate, make, code, and debug. What else are you seeing? What are you seeing students using AI for?
A lot of ideating, brainstorming with it.
Yeah. Okay. We understand that AI is not all powerful. At least at this point, it makes mistakes. It is good at summarizing information, generating text, assisting with code, simple recall tasks, simple production of information, but it can have fake information in it. It's not all believable. It is not as good with novel problem solving, genuine innovation, authentic personal experience, nuanced judgment, complex ethical reasoning, and creativity beyond established patterns. So let's give a little story here, food for thought. Let's do a little analogy. This is kind of how I see it. Let's say that two people agree to bring a cake to an event, and neither one, they signed up to bring a cake. Neither one knows how to bake a cake. Okay. So one goes out and buys a cake. Okay. So they have a simple and quick transactional process. Person B decides, this is my opportunity. I'm going to actually make a cake. Not as quick or simple. But in the process, one person bought a beautiful cake. They fulfilled their obligation of bringing a cake, but they didn't learn how to make the cake. The other one actually learned. They had to engage their, they had to think about it. They had to buy the ingredients. They had to mix the ingredients. They made mistakes. They made a mess. They had an experience in real life. They worked with real things. They maybe feel a sense of pride because they actually made something and they learned how to bake. They actually accomplished something. What are you smiling about, Patrick?
I'm thinking of that show, Nailed It. You know, when they show the cake they're supposed to make, and then they had this abomination of a thing. So yeah, they learned how to make a cake, but I don't know if it was the cake they made it, but yes, I was thinking the show nailed it based on seeing that kid.
I like that. Very cute. And maybe they made a total mess and they had to go out and buy the cake anyway,
Yeah.
but they had an experience and they learned from it. So as teachers, we want our students to learn how to make the cake, not just a quick transactional process that they forget. They fulfill an obligation, they check a box and they're done. We want them to learn the skills, have the experience, be able to make the cake. So we want to use AI in ways that support learning without letting the technology take over the work. So we've got the two different approaches, with AI, they can just one and done, put in a prompt, generate something, they're done. The other approach that we're talking about today is more about using the tilt and the authentic learning and the scaffolding process. And that's more of the steps along the way, that it's not just one and done. We want them to first brainstorm, do research, compare, contrast, organize, critique, revise, come up with something, get input, do something better. So we like the one that kind of snakes around because it's a better process for who learn more. I think you also see where AI is used when students are stressed, confused, unprepared, unfocused, disengaged. It's easy to just turn to AI to do something quickly for them. The tilt process, I really like this slide. It talks about, see if it doesn't really show up on the board very well. Yeah, it shows on the floor really well. But it addresses the students' challenges. We talk about students not being as prepared and socially, emotionally ready. And there's things like preparation. Maybe they're not a good writer. They have technical issues. They're unclear about the expectations. They don't recognize what they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. Time management. Students always underestimate how long it's going to take to do an assignment. They think they can wait until Sunday night and they can zip through it in a half hour. They don't recognize the time that is required and focus. Maybe they have competing commitments, motivation issues, reluctance to ask for help, lack of confidence, fear of failure. Maybe they don't see the relevance. Access to resources. We see that, issues related to them having what they need to do it. So with this is an interesting study that only 26% of employed graduates strongly agreed, this is I think for the bachelor's level, that college education was relevant to their work and everyday life. That's really low. That was that's some time ago, 2016, 2019, that was a study. And then for alumni who believe that they had developed in-demand professional skills, they are more likely to believe that their education helped them to achieve their goals. So we want to be that ladder for them, that they believe that what they're learning from us is relevant and important for their work and everyday life. So when we talk about benefits of tilt, transparency in learning and teaching, their own metacognition of understanding how they're learning, so they focus on skill development rather than just grades. Resilience to AI, focusing on assignments on personalized reflective learning, not just coming up with something, turning something in. Improved efficiency, spending less time struggling with what to do. If they don't understand the instructions, they don't see the relevance of it, they don't know what you want. Less time struggling with that and more time learning and doing. So tilt can help transform from the hidden to the transparent. Reduced equity gaps. I like this. It has been proven to improve retention and performance for first generation underrepresented and low income students. So you use this approach. You don't have to use it all the time for every assignment, but especially when the student should know the how and why of their learning experience and the value of that, how the learning activity connects to their lives, careers, and goals, and how to use AI as a tool, not as a means to an end. That's a good time to use this approach. Okay, so pop quiz, you'll get this later. The 3 pillars, and this is part of the learning outcomes for today. The 3 pillars are the purpose, the task, and the criteria. And you can make it explicitly clear in your assignment to them. What is the purpose? Why are we doing this? The task, exactly what are we doing? The criteria, how will it be judged? How will it be evaluated? So again, saying explicitly state the learning objectives, skills, and real world relevance. The task, define the specific steps, activities, and deliverables. And then the criteria. What is the clear success criteria? How will you ace this? How will you just get through it? Checklists, rubrics, exemplars. So when we talk about the purpose, the skills that they practice by doing the assignment, the content knowledge that they will gain from the assignment, how the students can use the skills and knowledge beyond the class for their life and their work. The task, clearly explain what to do and the required deliverables and explain how to do it, like what software and materials are needed. Is there a recommended process? Is there something they should read before they begin? Is the process intentionally unclear to allow them to struggle with it a little bit and to come up with their own creative insights, their own engagement with it? And what roadblocks or mistakes should they avoid? So you make that all very clear to them. And then the criteria, a bullet list, a checklist, a rubric, written expectations, and examples. And it can be good or bad. Like this is an example of a bad such and such. This is an example of a good. And it can include previous students' work and relevant real world work. So without transparency, students might think, I don't know what they're wanting. I don't understand. The focus is on compliance and guessing what is the so-called hidden rubric. How will they be judged? How will they know what they do well or not on it? Versus with transparency, they think, okay, I understand what to do and I want to do it to the best of my ability. And they focus on mastery, iterative growth, and engaging with the material. Now I'm bringing up the concept of authentic learning, which dovetails with this. Has anyone heard that term before? Authentic learning. Okay. And the way that it's described is an educational approach that emphasizes like the real world tasks, the career preparedness. So beyond the classroom, how is this applicable? How could they take this lesson and use it in their life and at their job? So authentic learning. And then when you talk about an authentic assessment, it's something that moves beyond just documenting what they know to demonstrating the knowledge through application. So what can you do with what you know for a real or realistic purpose? And I know a lot of you are already doing that. I know you have assignments that are based on professional practices. So that's already, you're already using this. That would be another way to say it. Yeah, hands-on, so that just like, you know, the electronics where they have the actual lab, like where they go in and they've got the wires and they've got all the yeah, the physical, and they are doing something that will apply to the job. So it's not just about a product. You know, a traditional grading focuses on, okay, they turned in something or they submitted a test and they get a grade on that, the final product. The authentic learning focuses on the whole process. You know, did they think? Did they revise? Did they reflect? Did they make decisions? Did they use critical thinking? They might have even failed and you said, no, you went wrong here, try it again, that sort of thing. So authentic learning, let's say in the context of AI, you know, when you're using AI, rather than simply memorizing information or completing an isolated exercise, you can have a clear purpose connected to real situations, audiences, or professional practices. You focus on not just the final thing they turned in, but what they actually learned, problems they worked through, decisions they made, and how they can apply this toward other situations in life. And with using AI, they have to critically think about how they're using AI. They have to explain back to you, what did they use? How did they use it? Critique it. Did they like what it created the first time? Did they have to change their prompt? Did they have to edit something and then revise and improve, reflect on the process, and demonstrate that they have an understanding of their own contributions toward the project? Now, how many people even already do scaffolding assignments? Yeah, I think a lot of people already do this because it helps to break a really big, kind of maybe complex thing into smaller, manageable steps. It's a good thing. But I'm on the assessment committee, and I've looked at some of the course assessments where you talked about the project that you did. And in some cases, it was one big project. And then I would suggest back to them on their feedback, break it down into smaller steps, because you noted that you did not meet your benchmark. And a lot of students had confusion about it. And more people failed or didn't even turn it in. So break it into smaller steps, give them little wins along the way, give them feedback along the way. So that's what scaffolding is about.
Julia, I have a question. Would you think, like in your class, would you think scaffolded assignments being they create a logo and then now they're going to use that logo on letterhead and now they're going to use it in brochure, you're snowballing? Or would you think it's a full-on assignment and in your rubric you gave them what you want the resolution to be, and so that was step one, and that you checked that off, but it was a much bigger assignment? I didn't
I think
know.
I use it both ways, actually.
Yeah, I didn't know if like the legit term for it as scaffolded assignments, if that meant you have these separate assignments that have different deliverables that then snowball in. Because I'll do a lot of hands-on finals where I've already taken skills and they will have 30 different skills they were already assessed on that work their way up to a completed project, but it's still a final grade. But on the rubric, all of those are different point values. So I didn't know if there was a difference between the two of them, and there was one that was more specific to that or not.
That's a good point, Patrick. But I think it's when you take something you want them to learn, it's related to your learning outcome for the lesson. And I have some examples here a little bit later.
Okay.
But actually in your packet, there's an example also. And yeah, like on page 3, it talks about an assignment with 4 scaffolding, and they have it just as one big assignment. And they do a good job because they talk about purpose, the skills that will be used, the knowledge, and the task. So they've broken it down pretty well, but it's all one big thing, and they have 2 weeks to finish it, right? And then if you turn the page and it says after scaffolding, they actually broken it down where, like, week 1, you solve and explain. Week 2, you have to compare after you've used some AI with it, and you have to do some reflection and compare and identify the similarity of the student's response versus what they got from AI. And then 3, they have to revise and make changes, turn in the final thing, and then have a reflection report that goes along with that. So it's broken into smaller steps that ultimately lead to the finished product. Along the way, the things that they make will be used in the final product. And the better that they do on the smaller pieces, the better their final project will be. So I hope that's clear. There's some assignments where it's just simple enough that it's just one and done. But there's many of my assignments where it really makes sense to have them break down week to week and have a little segment at a time that leads up to, let's say I'm doing a video, and they first have to choose their subject and have to do the research and brainstorming for that. 2, they have to hone in on the very narrow niche of what the video is going to be about. It can't be too broad, and they have to come up with 10 points of information, key facts that they're going to present in their video. And then step 3, they have to collect the images and the footage that they're going to use in the video. Step 4, they have to bring the images and the words and start actually using the video program and start editing, and they come up with a rough cut. And then step 4, is it? Am I on 4 now?
I think 5.
5 maybe?
Yeah.
And that's when they actually turn in their, what they think is a refined video at that point, and then they get feedback, and then they do their very final. So that's another example. Now we talk about the visible scaffolding, or the visible lens. And this is, you've got this in your packet as well, but it's to visible thinking, where you want students to show their thinking, intentional structure, sequenced learning step by step, informed tool use. So AI and other tools are used purposefully. Built-in clarity. So expectations and steps are very clear. Learning over time. So the understanding develops across stages. And engaged participation is built in the process. Discussions, critiques, feedback. So again, a traditional, let's say a research paper, you were given a topic, you're told, use credible sources. We want you to have at least 3 good citations. Here's the MLA format we want you to use, and it's due by such and such date. Whereas a scaffolding, you work with them, you break it into more like weekly or bi-weekly assignments, and then it leads up to that final paper. So again, it's about thinking about the time that you have, your 16 weeks of your course, what the course learning outcomes are, and which assignments will work in terms of scaffolding, and using that time wisely so they have deep learning and engagement with it. Okay, so this just shows again what scaffolding can do, structures their thinking, breaks tasks into smaller steps, guides the process, not just the final answer, builds understanding over time, makes their thinking visible. It shows little by little how they're working on it, decisions they're making. I like being able to give feedback along the process. So instead of that, this will help them from just failing something, because you can tell them at stage 2, oh, you're really not on the right track here. I've had to do that. Like, it's too broad, or your topic really isn't approved. I'd rather you do something different, so that you can give that feedback early in the process, get them back on track, help them to succeed. And then little by little, it shifts the responsibility from a lot of support to more independence. So when we talk about AI, we want them to, I do like them to brainstorm with it. Sometimes it helps if it can summarize something for them, suggest something, critique, generate something, but then not to replace their creativity, not to replace their own decisions, revisions, their own reading. So the ultimate assignment, unfakeable reflection. So instead of asking, did you use the AI? More like, how did AI change your thinking when you used it in this assignment? What suggestions did you like or reject, and why? What did you have to rewrite or redo? Did it make any mistakes? I always ask that, and they come back a lot of times with mistakes that AI has made. And what surprised you about the process? This helps with document the cognitive friction, which is, it's hard for them to fake that. They have to talk about their own experiences, their own journey. So thinking is no longer optional. Choices become more visible. Growth becomes the evidence. So to recap what we've been talking about, AI is part of education in the workplace. We don't have to use it all the time, but when they do use it, you want them to use it thoughtfully and not depend completely on it. Like, oh, this is great. It can do all the calculation for me. It can do coding for me. It can do everything. We want them to be engaged and to be critical thinkers, and people that can solve problems and use tools, including AI, to solve those problems. Scaffolded assignments support authentic learning. Reflection encourages critical thinking, and human creativity, judgment, and revision remain essential. So does anyone, pop quiz, you remember the 3 pillars of TILT?
Purpose, task,
Criteria. That's right. It's easy to remember. Right.
I think the TILT framework would stand for TILT, like, it's weird.
Yeah, yeah. And we know that employers actually do want AI literacy. They want our people from our technical college to be able to come in and have some computer savvy and have some AI literacy, but they still expect these people to have good critical thinking skills, ask good questions, evaluate information, make decisions, and collaborate with AI. Okay, I actually brought up my Blackboard, but I'll just go over this right now. Here's an example from my class. We have an assignment where it's an digital illustration course, and we're wanting them to come up with a drawing that they develop on some kind of a theme that they decide, and then expand it and actually use it on merchandising and use it with laying out as part of an article, and show how a simple piece of art that they make has commercial value. So it's in multiple steps. And before Tilt, I was doing some things that were pretty good. I had a start here section. I had 4 scaffolded steps, and each step required submitting work to show their decisions and judgment, how things were coming along. It enabled feedback and revisions. And each step had its own grading rubric, a deadline, instructions, and examples. And it had a journaling component. So I wanted to ask questions like, what was the most difficult thing at this stage? What was the most enjoyable thing? Did you have to make changes to your project because of an unexpected barrier? It had reflections in it. But the not so good parts, it wasn't really the tilt. I didn't provide an exact purpose to them. I didn't specifically list the criteria. I didn't relate it back to real life, like explicitly say that you can do this process and it would enable you to sell your artwork and print it and make t-shirts and hats and mugs and have it online. I didn't explicitly show the commercial purposes of it. The human and AI interaction wasn't as clearly stated as it should be. And also I noticed that AI is really good at coming up with headings. It does beautiful titles, subhead, headers, paragraph. It does a really nice job of breaking it down. And that's for accessibility purposes as well. People using screen readers and are trying to navigate through something. And it also just visually makes it stronger. So when I had one little start here section. Nothing really jumps out at you. There's a little bit of bolding going on. I have some numbers showing step 1, 2, 3, 4, but And then afterwards, the start here section, I really like how it has the headers and the title and the bolding, and it's broken up nicer. And I have a overview section. I have the purpose statements. I have bullet lists of exactly what the purpose is. I have explicit tasks, what's expected of you. Part 1, not only that you have a part 1, but this is what happens in part 1. Here's part 2 and what's happening in part 2, 3, 4. And then I expanded it into a 5th step. I also explicitly state this is your role and this is how you will work with AI. So I do give permission for them to use AI in this project, but I include a statement about their role and AI's role. And the criteria, here's how to be successful. Of course, I had a rubric previously, and they could go open the rubric and see what the criteria was. But here I also bullet list it so that they don't have to open the rubric separately to see it. It's all very clear. Successful work will demonstrate strong and original visual concepts, clear development from the original drawing to the refined designs, thoughtful use of color, composition, and pattern, willingness to explore alternatives, and on and things like that. Explicitly clear what the criteria is. And then just for fun, here's an example of this project. So from a simple sketch, does anyone first of all know what this creature is?
Oh, that's an axolotl.
Yes. How many people knew that?
Daughters.
You know. I didn't know what it was. I'm like, what is that thing you drew? Say what? Huntington Museum of Art?
Yeah, Huntington Museum of Art has.
They do.
Yeah, this got a new.
Oh my gosh. They're the cutest thing. They're real. They are aquatic salamanders and they're from Mexico. That's like the only place in the world they're from is Mexico. And they're so cute.
Yeah.
And they're like little salamanders and their gills still show and they have this little smile on their face. So cute. So that is what one of my students wanted to draw for her doodle drawing. So that's her sketch and then her refined drawing and then color variations. She was limited to 3 colors. So she has black, teal, and darker teal, black, yellow, and violet, and then like a pink and a purple and black. So she's trying some different color variations. Here's the full color with as many colors as she wanted. And then here's trying the, she didn't do well with the AI and she admitted it. And here's her reflection. She had a hard time getting AI to stay within the boundaries and to recognize what these things were. So her stuff was a lot better than what the AI worked on. This is her reflection in her learning journal about that. And then the product, you know, coming up with a black and white version to put a pattern together on a shirt. I think it looks great. Bed sheets, isn't that cute? Hoodies. She only used just a part of it. So she just isolated one of the little creatures and put it on the front of the shirt. And then she's got a scene on the back. And then she named him Gerald. And then she showed if you wanted this to be a piece of art that you frame on your wall, and she tried like, here's Gerald. So the goal isn't to keep AI out of education, but it's to keep the students intellectually engaged and to keep them learning, thinking, creating, and reflecting on that process using AI as a tool. So your challenge, I know we had one today with OER. So here's your challenge that I'm giving you is start with one assignment. See if there is something that could be broken into smaller scaffolded steps. See if you have an assignment that you need to make things more explicitly clear. What is the purpose? What is the task? How is it going to be graded? What is the criteria for it? And you could add a reflection into the assignment where you ask them questions about it. What did you enjoy about it? How do you think it can relate to your real life? How can you use this lesson at the job? Reflect on their progress and make thinking visible. So I think the resources that I gave you can be helpful. And it is from the Tilt Higher Ed website. Also, I'm happy to help if I can answer any questions, give you any advice about changing your assignment that you're looking at doing. So today we covered a lot. We talked about using AI. We talked about tilt, visible, authentic learning, and scaffolding. And these are concepts that I got from the Achieving the Dream and also from our summer symposium that I attended. And then I'll just say that some of the slides and information were taken from that Achieving the Dream Summit that I had in the spring. Some slides and information were from the Tilt Higher Ed website. Some were generated from Notebook LM and ChatGPT. So I used some AI and also used ChatGPT to help me do the outline for this presentation. It's been extensively modified, but it gave me a good basis to start with. And then I found some online images from Pixabay. tilthighered.com is a good site. They have a lot of resources, a lot of good information. And we want to teach our students how to bake. And there is the evaluation survey. And does anyone have any other questions? For me, it was like, wow, I'm already doing some of this, but I can make it more structured. I can make it more clear to them. I can go back and look at my assignments and I just said, here's the project, here's the due date, here's the grade, check the rubric for your evaluation criteria. That's basically how I did. And then I would put in some examples for them to look at. And that's about what I did. Now I'm going back through and I'm adding the whole thing of start here. What is the purpose? What's the expectations? Clearly telling them what they will be working on, how it will help them, how it will benefit them, the criteria for success. And I will say using a bot will help. You tell them you want it to put this lesson in a tilt, scaffolded, authentic learning model, and it will. You give them those words and it will understand what those are, and it will then structure it by the task, the purpose, and the criteria.
Been doing that a lot with my discussion board posts. 'Cause I found that like I've got questions or something that I want students to respond to in the discussion board, but I'm not always doing a very good job of connecting that with the material of the class. It's just like, here's this random thing that I think is interesting. Let's talk about it. But I'm using the tilt framework has helped me kind of connect that to the outcomes a lot better.
How long have you been using tilt?
2 years maybe.
Okay.
So I mean, mostly just for my discussion board. It's not as advanced as what your this is.
So, but it can help with discussion boards.
Yeah.
Because again, that's a tough one. A lot of students are thinking, what a waste of time.
And if you really want them like to be clear, well, how many words does the post have to be? How many responses? The tilt gives you those clear criteria, and otherwise it's maybe not as clear.
Yeah, and some people do as little as possible and some overkill and do too much. Looking at my Blackboard, I think it's showing on the screen now. Here's that project, the Doodle collect from Doodle to Design Collection. I've also found that AI helps you come up with these catchy little titles for your assignments, and I like it. So instead of just saying Doodle Drawing Project, which is what I had before, I think it's more engaging to think of like from Doodle to Design Collection. Okay, that sounds interesting. And when you click on that, let me open it. Start here. And that's where I show the whole thing, the purpose. Why are we doing this? What's expected? There are 5 parts. And I don't say just part 1, part 2, part 3. I'm defining a little bit about, well, in part 1, you're creating your doodle. It's original. You can get inspiration from others, but your artwork and your concept must be original. And then you're going to refine and add color. You're going to experiment with AI-assisted recoloring. You're going to develop patterns with that and with the doodle drawing patterns and merchandise. And then you'll be putting it in a finished layout where it's like an article or part of a website or something where it's incorporated with the text. And in your learning journal, you will be reflecting on questions about what AI tools did you explore, blah, blah, blah. Here's the criteria, what's expected, and how to be successful. So that's in my start here. I always like to have a start here that helps orient them so that they know what is coming up here, because it can be intimidating to see all these modules and all these assignments. Here's a packet with resources and information and examples. Here's part 1. And I kept my basic thing of what is it, when is it due, what is the grade, see the grading rubric for the criteria, and then here is the submissible. I was already good at this, being very clear, what do they have to turn in? Because over the years, I learned that some people would put the wrong file, or they would attach it instead of giving a link to it. So you have to be really clear, what deliverables are you expecting from them so that they can put it in the right file in the right way, the right link. And then I have the steps of the assignment for part 1. And then I give examples like themes. So I give them lots of ideas to start off with. Here are some possible themes. You can have your own unique theme, but here's a starting point. Do not copy cartoon characters. So it's not only what you do, but what you don't do. Anything that is intellectual property, cartoon characters, logos, video game characters, comic book characters, someone else's doodles. And then some drawing tips. some alternative approaches if they want to do something like a mandala or a Zentangle or a decorative line art, something if they're having a trouble looking at the blank page, not knowing where to get started. And then be sure to document, take pictures of the process along the way. Here's some templates if they just want to use one of these resources. If they really don't draw and they're really intimidated by this whole thing, then here's some other alternatives they can use to get started to create a doodle. And then I have some examples. This is someone that didn't really draw, but they were good at the line art. And this turned out beautiful. This was from a point. They started with this little point thing and just created these flowing lines from point to point and made this, it looked like material or something tied like in knots or something. It was really quite beautiful. Oh, like Dr. Seuss?
Yeah, a little bit of some of the, yeah, some of this.
It's like a shirt.
His college.
Oh, like a tie-dye shirt. Yeah, it's quite beautiful. Or it almost looks like flowers or something.
Something else, by the way, yeah.
And so lots of examples and kind of showing them what they will be doing. So that's part one. So I try to do that with every, and like Kim said, it does take a little more time to set up from the beginning with all of these structures and supports. But I think overall it helps them to have a much better understanding of what to do, how to engage with it, what's expected. And I've broken it down into manageable little parts week to week instead of just one big project. I think the first time that I offered this assignment, it was one project. I'm like, you've got 3 weeks, come up with a doodle, and then do your color variations, and then do the merchandising and turn it in. So there was no chance for feedback at that point. There's no chance to see how they were doing or help them. So I think it's much better now with the scaffolding.
It's still 3 weeks project.
No, I've expanded it.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty complicated.
Yeah, yeah, it's much expanded now. So I don't have as many projects now. I think for this I only have like, yeah, I only have 3 main projects, plus their learning journal, plus some reports, presentations they have to do. So I didn't have as many little drawing projects, but the ones that are there have multiple steps. They're more involved. And with this one, like digital art, they're doing some different things, but it's all part of using electronics and digital means to create the artwork. So we use both traditional drawing in some parts of this course and then digital drawing in other parts of the course, because that's part of our learning outcomes as well. Okay, I want to thank everybody for your attention. Thank you for attending. And I'll put up that that course survey if you would be so kind.